Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. My girlfriend just gave birth to our first child. I know I'm not the biological father, and I revealed I knew as soon as she gave birth. Plus small update. I'll try to keep this short because I'm planning to go to a bar soon. I found out when she was about 6 months along. This guy, Brian, approached me at my work. "Are you Sarah's boyfriend?" I said yeah, and asked what he wanted. He said he was sorry, but that he had slept with her and swore he didn't know that she was with someone. I don't believe that. He then pulled out his phone to show the texts between them. They had been sleeping together or linking up for at least a year. Then she found out she was pregnant, and they came to an agreement to just pretend the baby was mine. In return, she wouldn't lose her perfect life, and he wouldn't be responsible for a baby. I knew it was weird. We had been having problems trying for a baby, and all of a sudden, she got pregnant so easily. But he explained that he had been thinking about it, and he recently became a Christian. He said that he couldn't live his life knowing that I was living a lie, while his child didn't know their real father. So yeah, I told him I'd keep in touch, and to not say that he said anything just yet. I've had a lot of time to think, but ultimately, I decided to wait until she gave birth, to hurt her in her most vulnerable moment. I'll spare the details, but she went into labor, baby was born, and was taken to the NICU to be monitored for a bit. What should have been a beautiful moment of me holding my baby was the most heartbreaking time of my life. Just knowing he was not mine hurt me. Once she was sewn up and comfortable, I started packing up my stuff to leave. She asked where I was going, and I just told her. I know I'm not the baby's father. You can act all shocked, but I know. Just ask Brian to come. I'm positive he'll sign the birth certificate. Then I left. She's been calling my phone over and over, even sending texts as I type this, and has even gotten her sister to call me a few times. It was hard pretending these last few months, but I think I'm satisfied. I feel really heartbroken though. I was planning to propose to her on the day our baby was born. I was gonna make her the happiest woman ever. Oh well, I'm going to go get very drunk now. Now for the top advice before reading the update. I did a sigh of relief when I saw you're not married to this woman. Take power from that. You can move on much easily. Same. Good riddance. I'm so sorry. No one deserves this. The crap she pulled is absolutely evil. It will get better with time, and you will be happy again with someone who deserves you. Go ahead and let her and Brian deal with this situation on their own. Shoot, I'm relieved he didn't sign the birth certificate. Some states consider him the actual father at that point. Seriously. And he should be glad they aren't married and living in my state. In my state, if you're married, the father automatically goes on the birth certificate, even if baby isn't his. My state requires a year of separation before divorcing, but my ex-husband and I did not legally separate until we had already been apart for almost a year and dating new people. I got pregnant 3 years after we separated, but we were still legally married. I had to pay a lawyer and go through a lengthy process to get his name off the birth certificate and get the real father's name put on there. It was a hassle. Get a DNA test just to be 100% sure the child isn't yours. But you did the right thing leaving her. Now make sure you have the text from Brian so she can't twist the narrative. You also need the DNA test so she can't put you on child support, because if you're in the USA, it'll be hell to get you off of it once the courts deem you the father. I'm like 110% sure that is not my kid just from looking at him, but I'll get the test. I get that, but it just to be on the safe side. You wouldn't want to find out 10 years later that it's yours, and you missed out on all the time and moments with the child. It won't hurt having something definitive that says you aren't the father. Might want to get a DNA test first, as this happened to my parents. My mom was messing around with my dad's friend. My dad knew. My brother was born, and my dad divorced my mom. My brother was beat red baby. My mom is half native, and her lover was Mexican, so everyone concluded based on my brother's looks that he must be the other guy's son. 5 years later, my brother is sporting fair skin and blonde hair. They did a paternity test, and he was my dad's after all. Took another 6 years for my dad to get custody. He's 35 now and looks like our dad's doppelganger. Yes, the red skin was a covert boomer racist assumption about indigenous skin. People actually believed that nonsense in the 80s. Damn, I wish I could give you a hug and buy you a drink if that's what you want. I can't even tell you how sorry I am. Thanks man. Appreciate it. Now for the mini update. Head hurts, but I'm home and safe. I wasn't really expecting this to gain as much traction as it did, but I'll clear up a few things. Brian is going to be in the baby's life if it's his. I don't care what anyone says, I'm sure the kid isn't mine. I'll go get tested, but me and Brian have been in contact since last night, and there isn't a doubt in my mind. For those of you calling me a psychopath or whatever, I don't really care. You'll all forget about this post in a day anyway, while I'll have to live with this crap for the rest of my life. What I did wasn't amazing, but I don't care. All I ever did was treat her amazing, and this is how she pays me back. If you think this is fake, go read something else. Doesn't matter to me. Last story. Update. I found out my 31 male, ex-wife 27 female, cheated on me while she was pregnant. Now she says I'm emotionally manipulative because I'm cold and distant during custody switches. Original post. I found out my now ex-wife had been cheating on me last year when she was 6 months pregnant. The affair happened before and during the pregnancy. She had reasons and excuses and didn't want to get a divorce. She wanted to stay together and do couples therapy. I told her to go ahead and get therapy, but cheating was a deal breaker for me, so we got a divorce. The house was mine before we got married, so she moved back in with her parents, who had enough room to set up a nursery and give my ex the guest room. We agreed to an even 50-50 split of custody. My wife has our daughter Sunday to Wednesday, and the original plan was for her to drop her off at daycare on Wednesday morning. And my nanny picked her up around noon and brought her back to my house, where my daughter would stay with me until Saturday night or Sunday morning, depending on what worked best for everyone. Then my ex said she thought the daycare was misplacing some things she was sending in for her to bring to my house, because a few times our daughter came home short some bottles, or without her binky. So, ex said she wanted to drop our daughter off at our house directly to make sure all of her things get to me. So, she started picking her up from daycare on her breaks, and dropping her off here. I work from home Wednesdays and Fridays, even so, I'm working. When ex began dropping off Nadine at my house, it was normally about 12:30. My daughter's nanny, a nice old lady from Barbados in her late 50s or 60s, was the one to answer the door for my ex and take my daughter and her things since I was in my office working. Ex began saying she wanted to speak to me directly when she dropped off. She said she felt like she was unloading a lot on the nanny and didn't want her to forget to tell me anything. I would be lying if I said I didn't still have some resentment and anger towards my ex. I don't want my daughter to see that though, so when I talk to my ex, I try to be as emotionally even as possible, just talk about the things that pertain to my daughter, and no more. At today's drop-off, Nadine had a dirty diaper, so her nanny took her upstairs to change her. My ex asked me how I was doing, and I told her I was fine, thank you, and then began to walk back to my office. She sees herself out as she used to live there. As I was walking away, she says, "You know, I'm getting really sick of what you're doing." I didn't even get a chance to ask her what it was she was talking about, when she just started freaking out, saying I was emotionally manipulating her by being cold and distant, that she shouldn't be punished forever for her mistakes, and how me hating her is the same as me hating my daughter. I let her finish yelling, and then told her to leave. I think my best bet is to go no contact with her again, and not see her for drop-offs anymore. But I was looking for some other perspectives or opinions on the matter if you might have them. Edit. I got a paternity test once I found out she cheated. My daughter is mine. Now for the top advice before reading the update. It appears that your ex is hoping for a reconciliation, trying to find ways to see you. Since that's not an option for you, returning to no contact is best. You'll need to get over her betrayal, enough that you can be in the same room with her for your daughter's sake, but nothing more is required. I can still be in the same room and be cordial to her, I just don't want to make small talk and be friends. Please just continue to do this. I came from a situation where one parent cheated on the other that led to divorce. Cheater parent was much like your wife. However, in my situation, the other parent constantly took the bait and it led to some very big fights. Fights they continued having well into my 20s. Had to prohibit them from even speaking to each other at my wedding. It really screwed up my ability to handle myself in any level of conflict for a very long time. The approach you are taking is great. Don't take her bait. She will get bored and find a new target. I don't know how no contact would work with even sharing of your daughter's time. Definitely as little contact as possible. Continue being a stone wall. You could say, you and I don't need to have an emotional connection. All we do is handle business with our daughter. Yeah, I mean no contact aside from things that have to do with our daughter. There is a free online program called Talking Parents at talkingparents.com. Courts utilize it in contentious family law cases. It's essentially an email chain. The benefits are, the time the message is sent is recorded, the time the message is seen is recorded, and messages cannot be edited or deleted. If your ex's excuse for modifying your parenting plan is that she wants to talk to you about your daughter, this is the solution. In the event you need to defend yourself, protect your reputation, or protect your daughter, you just press print. Note, she isn't coming to your house to talk to you about your daughter. She wants to stop feeling like the bad guy, either by getting your forgiveness or provoking you into an emotional response, etc. You haven't taken the bait yet. Good on ya. Keep that up. My worry here would be her starting to lie and tell people you're being emotionally harming or mistreating your daughter because you don't want a relationship with her outside co-parenting. Yes, that's what I'm worried about too. I want to keep things as civil as possible. Put a camera in the area by the door and have it record audio plus video, and tell your ex that you're now recording the drop-offs and pickups. If she has another outburst like that, you'll have it as proof you're not doing anything wrong. And now for the update. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who took the time to comment their support, sympathies, and advice. I didn't get a chance to respond to all the comments, but I read and appreciate them all. There were so many great suggestions. Someone suggested a website called Talking Parents, which I believe is going to be a great resource for my ex-wife and I. The thing I need to keep reminding myself is that, in 5 or 10 years, the negative and betrayed feelings I have for my ex-wife will most likely fade, but a hostile relationship between the two of us will impact our daughter forever. Because of this, I sat down with my ex-wife and had a recorded conversation about our situation. I was very open and honest with her. I told her that I still had negative feelings towards her as my ex-wife, but as the mother of my child, I would always treat her civilly and respectfully, but we had to have boundaries. I told her that we are going back to the original plan where she drops her off at the daycare Wednesday mornings, and my nanny picks her up in the afternoon. We're going to communicate through the website which items should be sent home with her, so the nanny can double-check to make sure she has everything. My ex-wife isn't happy. I think she was coming to my house in hopes of reconciliation, but I told her respectfully, but in no uncertain terms, that it was never going to happen. But that I would love to evolve our relationship as awesome co-parents to an amazing little girl, and maybe one day, friends. Again, thank you to everyone who took the time to reply to my post. This community has been a wonderful resource for me. I hope you all have a wonderful night. You're a stand-up guy. I think you handled that like a legend. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Not only a stand-up guy, but an awesome dad. I'm glad to see that those communication websites and tools are working for you. They're great because they protect both parties by making everything transparent. I don't know if this was mentioned previously, but have you had a paternity test? You don't need your ex's permission to get one. It's a simple cheek swab for your daughter and you. Something to think about, especially due to the infidelity. Even if you plan to raise the child as yours regardless of paternity, knowing the truth will be important for her medical history, and it's information your daughter is entitled to have. That sort of delusion doesn't go away overnight. Expect her to weaponize the kid. That's why I'm trying to cover all of my bases by staying civil and recording all communication. Yes, but you're doing all the right things. Don't let up at all. She's immature and vindictive. She's angry that you walked away with your head held high. Be aware the chances are high she's going to smear you to everyone who will listen. Also pay attention to signs of parent alienation when the baby is old enough to understand. Your ex is petty and embarrassed that she messed up a good thing with you. Could you imagine going from being a married woman to being an ex-wife and now living in a guest room in their parents' house? It's easier to blame you than face her BS. Be accountable and responsible. Keep up the great work. Navigating the whole co-parent thing will have its ups and downs, but hold to the attitude you wrote here no matter what. Keep yourself clear. Hopefully things will go as smoothly as possible, though there may be setbacks and crappy times ahead. Your ex has issues. Things won't get better overnight, and she may get worse before she gets better. That kind of selfishness can be hard to overcome. Cheaters are disgusting, but at the end of the day, you have a lovely daughter and so many wonderful times ahead with her. I'm sorry for the pain you've gone through, wishing you happiness in the future. I also ended a marriage with a cheater. Turns out I didn't know what I was missing until I had a partner who actually loves and respects me. There are decent people out there. Cheating is disgusting, but it doesn't define the person. People are defined by their behavior among other things, because that's part of what makes up who we are. Treating someone you supposedly love and swore vows to with so little respect, love, and care speaks volumes about the cheater, especially when you have or are building a life together. It doesn't mean they can't change and grow. Some do. Others double down on saying it doesn't define them or it was just a mistake, as if it wasn't a deliberate series of decisions. Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. Update. My wife and her best friend accused me of having an affair, then got angry when I didn't have one. Original post. I, 31 male, and my wife, 29 female, had a baby last December. It was a traumatic birth, and my wife developed postpartum depression. While she was originally going to go back to work after the birth, she's been struggling enough that we decided to wait until our daughter was a year old and reassess. She has been going to therapy weekly. With my wife home full-time, I've had to work increased hours. This is something we discussed prior to making this decision, and she knew this from the start. A few weeks ago, my boss approached me about a project that would require a lot of overtime in a short amount of time. It would both be great financially and for my career. I talked to my wife about it, and she agreed that I should say yes to my boss. For the 4 weeks I'd be working on this, my mother-in-law and her best friend, Jessie 29 female, would come help out with some of the duties that I typically do. Jessie is a stay-at-home mom with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. She began coming over during the day and would watch the kids with my wife. 3 weeks into the project, it became clear that we'd need a few more weeks to get it together. I went home that night and talked to my wife about it. She said she was okay with it, but got very cold in the days after. It wasn't unusual behavior over the past few months, so I didn't think much about it and tried not to take it personally. During the last week of the project, I got home one night and saw that Jessie was still at the house. I didn't think much about it, said hi to her and my wife, and then went to go check on our daughter. Before I could get to her room, I heard Jessie say something along the lines of, "He doesn't even stop to greet you." Definitely a sign. I turned around and asked what it was a sign of. Immediately, my wife started crying, and Jessie started accusing me of having an affair. She told me that I must hate my wife because she has PPD, and I'm not attracted to her because she gained weight from the pregnancy. Neither of these things are true. I'm trying my best to help my wife through her PPD while supporting our family. And I think she looks great how she is right now, she just hasn't wanted to be intimate, and I haven't pushed. Jessie then demanded to see my phone. I told her no. She told me that's a sign that I'm guilty. I told my wife that I would let her see my phone if she wanted to. She nodded, and something inside me broke. I guess it was the thought that she actually believed I was having an affair that really got to me, and that she didn't trust me after everything we've been through. Well, she looked through the phone and there was no evidence. Jessie started saying that I deleted the evidence. She started screaming and woke up our daughter, so I told her to get out of the house. Eventually she left, and I went to calm our daughter since my wife was still on the couch crying. When my daughter was asleep again, I sat down by my wife and tried to talk to her about what's been happening. She told me that she's been worried ever since I started working all the overtime. I told her that we'd talked about how good of an opportunity it was, and she agreed to letting me take on this project. She said it was very suspicious to increase the length of the project. I told her that sometimes that happens. She wanted more evidence, so I showed her messages and emails with timestamps from work and pay stubs showing the overtime. She said she believed me and was sorry for doubting me. It was just that Jessie had been telling her that these were all signs that I was cheating. I asked her why she believed Jessie more than me and why she didn't come to me with her concerns. She didn't have a real answer. It's been a couple weeks and the project is over. I actually scaled back and am trying to work a little less than I was before the project so I can spend more time with my wife and daughter. But I feel so burnt out trying to do everything and becoming resentful because in the back of my mind, I know that my wife doesn't trust me. I ask myself, what happens the next time I have a project? Or I have to run errands one day? Or if I have a business trip? Am I going to come back every time to accusations that I'm cheating? I've tried bringing it up a couple times, but my wife tells me it's not the time and that she's tired or sad. I try to be mindful of her feelings, but I wonder if that means that I can never have any of my own. I'm not sure what to do here. Any advice for how I can move forward? Now for the top advice before reading the update. You need couples therapy and to ditch Jessie. I agree with this. This is a horrible friend to your wife. She needs therapy. I've had PPD, and it's the most horrible mental experience, and if you guys don't get help and disconnect from this Jessie person, she may try something worse. Best of luck. I'm wondering why Jessie was around so much in the first place, and if there are any alternatives. It sounds like Jessie path of least resistance herself into wife's home. Wife is probably lonely and needs another adult to talk to. I'm curious if she can join a group, maybe for new moms, or maybe just a general hobby group to help her stay grounded and socialized. She's in an incredibly vulnerable place right now. I'm glad she came around, and it makes sense that OP is hurt by this. Both of them could probably benefit from axing Jessie, replacing her with some good influences, and taking some time to reconnect. This is a horrible situation, made worse by your wife's friend, who is possibly projecting her own relationship issues on you guys. I would go to couples counseling and keep reassuring your wife that you love her. Depression makes you think crazy things. I hope the best for you. This sounds to me like Jessie is projecting onto your already very vulnerable wife. I'm happy to hear your wife is already seeing a therapist and totally agree that couples counseling is important. But just so you know, your feelings are valid. You are pushing yourself too hard and stretching yourself too thin. It's okay to feel the way you do, but please make sure you address your feelings. Don't bury them because it's not the right time. It won't ever be the right time, which is where couples counseling can come in to help force the conversation. You sound like a wonderful husband, and your wife sounds like she is pretty great too, and hopefully with some help, you'll be back to your new normal with your little family. Best of luck, man. So much this. From your story, it sounds like your wife loves you very much. She has just been having a lot of insecurities. This is less about you and more about her feeling good about herself. When we are depressed like this, we see the worst version of ourselves in our own mind. I am a guy and so I have not had PPD, but I have suffered with depression years ago, after some hard times in my life. I guess the point is, if she feels good about herself or she can learn to see herself through your eyes, the eyes of someone who loves her, it will heal a lot of this. A couples counselor will definitely help, but in the meantime, you need to do everything you can to build her up and focus on her. This is just part of the living promise marriage is. You carry her until she carries you and on till the race is done. Best of luck to you and your family, sir. Now for the first update. Thank you to everyone for all of the advice and support on my previous post. I think a lot of you pointed out what should have been obvious, that I need to get a therapist and start looking after my own mental health. A couple people asked for an update, so I'm giving one, but it's not happy. That night, I approached my wife and told her that I was going to find a therapist. I didn't connect it to her accusations or anything, just said that I was having a tough time and needed therapy. She shrugged and told me to do whatever. Next day, I got home from work, and our room and my home office were ripped apart. Things everywhere. Important papers scattered. I don't see her, but our daughter is in her room crying. My wife left her alone, her cell phone's off. So I call my in-laws and a few friends, but no one has seen her. I'm starting to get worried, and I call my mom to see if she can babysit while I go out and look for her. Before my mom can get home, my wife gets back, with Jessie driving. Jessie doesn't come in. She hasn't been back in the house since I kicked her out because she was offended by my behavior. But my wife does. She's clearly upset and has been crying. I ask what happened. I thought at first the house might have been robbed. She starts screaming at me that I'm being unfaithful and that the therapy is a front so I can meet my mistress. I try to calm her down and tell her that's not true, but she came at me and she hit me. My nose is broken. She kind of realized what she did and sat down on the couch and went comatose, just stared at the wall. I went into my daughter's room and locked the door. Called my mom to tell her what happened. She was already on her way, and my mother-in-law to ask her to come over and take care of my wife. I packed a bag for my daughter, and when my mom got there, we left. My wife didn't even look up. We dropped my daughter off with my dad and then went to urgent care for my nose. I got blood all over my mom's new Subaru. My daughter and I are staying with my parents for a while, and my wife's staying with hers. I am looking into getting a restraining order against Jessie. My wife and I are separating. I love her, but I won't live with someone who hurts me and who could potentially hurt our daughter. I am not going forward with a divorce yet, with the hopes that my wife will get the treatment she needs and we can work things out. My in-laws told me that they're looking at inpatient treatment at a local hospital. But I also have everything well documented in case of an eventual custody battle. My heart's broken because I know this isn't my wife. This is a sickness in her mind. But I need to keep myself and our daughter safe and give her the space to recover. I'm hoping that this is the right decision. Thanks again, everyone. Screw Jessie. I'm not saying she's the cause of all this, but she definitely was the catalyst. Bet she enjoyed the circus show she helped produce. Yeah, sounds like she tried to brainwash OP's wife at every chance and was for the most part successful. This is some premeditated psychopath stuff. I hope for the best, OP. Your wife left your baby at home alone and then proceeded to break your nose. I think you need to see a lawyer as soon as possible to ensure she is not left alone with your daughter again until she is mentally healthy. Seriously, there should be no coming back after leaving your baby home alone. I mean, do you really want to be with a woman who actively chose to put your child in danger? Your old wife is gone and forever will be. Divorce now while you still have the upper hand. Your wife's behavior is polluting your innocent daughter's mind, and your daughter is subconsciously starting to believe this is all normal and okay. Don't let that happen. Well, from reading this in your previous post, it sounds like Jessie deliberately got in your wife's ear in order to ruin your marriage. More than likely, her life is a shambles and she wanted your wife's to be in a shambles too. For her to be with your wife and not of the baby is pathological. Good for you for having your child with you and for working to get Jessie out of your life. She will not be happy until your marriage has been completely destroyed along with your wife. Jessie is pathological. She most definitely isn't a friend. She did what she was accusing you of. She didn't care about your wife at all and caused this break. You are right to get yourself into counseling. You have a long road ahead of you. Keeping you and your daughter safe are your main concern. I am sorry this happened. Jessie took advantage of your wife's vulnerability and planted her evil thoughts in your wife's head. Well, there are no words for what she did other than evil and psychotic. I wonder what her end game is. It seems like she is enjoying the show and will probably abandon OP's wife when the crap hits the fan. I am sorry this is happening to you, OP, and I am glad you have support systems close by. Edit. Thank you all for your feedback. I've talked to my parents after reading your comments and came to the conclusion that for my daughter's protection, I need to file a police report. I am headed to the station now. Now for the second update a week later. My wife passed on early Monday morning. Convinced by her friend Jessie that I was having an affair that I did not have, she had a mental break, which resulted in my taking our infant daughter and staying with my parents for a while. She was with her parents, who planned on taking her to the hospital for inpatient treatment on Monday. On Sunday night, she came to my parents' house and demanded I give her our daughter. Because she had left her alone for several hours the last time she was responsible for her and had gotten physical with me, I refused. I offered to let her come in and spend time with her while my parents and I were present, but she didn't want to come in and wanted to take our daughter with her. She was upset but left eventually. A few hours later, she drove her parents' car into a tree and died. The friend, Jessie, came to see my daughter and me yesterday. After some tears, she told me that she was planning to speak at my wife's funeral. She had already cleared it with my in-laws, but was letting me know as a courtesy. I told her she would not be speaking at the funeral. We fought, and she left after telling me that I was a jerk and not the only person who loved my wife. I talked to my in-laws who were adamant that Jessie be allowed to speak. She and my wife knew each other since they were kids, and my in-laws are close to her. We're all very fragile right now, and I fear that pushing this further would hurt my relationship with my in-laws, which I don't want. Still, the thought of seeing Jessie up there at my wife's funeral makes me feel sick. I don't think I can stand to listen to her, knowing that she took joy in my wife's deteriorating mental health and picked up my wife, leaving my daughter home alone. That being said, I don't trust myself to make the best decisions right now. My mind's clouded by grief, guilt, and fear. My parents are split on what to do, and I don't have the energy to reach out to my friends. So, I'm coming here again to ask for your advice. Thank you. Do they know what went down? They do, to an extent. They know she accused me of an affair and was with my wife while our daughter was alone. I don't think they understand the extent it went on. They said that they don't really want to hear anything about it, since they've already lost their daughter and don't want to lose Jessie too. If you don't want Jessie in your life, even peripherally, you're going to need to tell your in-laws that they can keep her or keep you and their granddaughter, but not both. And they need to hear the true extent of Jessie's involvement. They're doing their daughter's memory a disservice. Jessie's drama already got one person killed, and she's not done yet. I'm glad Reddit convinced him the wife was a danger to his child. It is tragic enough that one person died in that car. A few years ago, I was caring for the child of a self-harming person for a few weeks while she was in a care facility. When she got out, she was staying with me and acting erratic. She snapped and got scary. She stormed out of my house and sped away in her car. When she came back, I refused to allow her to take her child away without her husband present. To this day, she says I kidnapped her child, and she hates my guts. The relationship is over, but I would do it again because I was certain she'd end herself and the child by getting in an accident. All I could think was that I had to protect the baby. As a father of 2, 3 and under, I've read this and been wondering how I would describe her death to his daughter when she is older if I were in his shoes. What a sad situation. I would say she was very sick. Her brain was telling her things that weren't true, and she lost her fight with it. She was also getting so really bad advice from some of the people around her. It wasn't about loving daughter. Any negative feelings were what she feared she lacked, not anything that daughter lacked. It has to be incredibly hard. I don't envy him this conversation, but I am glad he didn't let his wife take their daughter that night. Yeah. To be honest, I wouldn't even add in about the other people. All that leaves the child with is extra questions that they will eventually want answers to. And honestly, since Jessie is not going to be a part of the girl's life anyway, what would the whole point be in kind of hinting that there's more to the story? And creating this hatred in the daughter's heart that is not going to serve a purpose or have a resolution. If I were OP, I would just share memories of how her mom was before her depression, her interests, talents, quirks, habits, likes and dislikes. Since OP and his wife were married in around 30-ish, I'm making the vague assumption their child was something they planned and wished for. So I'd talk about that too. Make it very clear that OP's wife had love for her and wanted to be her mom. Despite the depression, those were her feelings towards her daughter. Then tell her that after she was born her mom got sick, and she died because of it. Maybe when OP's daughter is an adult, he could talk more openly about the details. But I think for a kid it's enough to know that mom was sick.